Coming up today on Locked On Hornets, is there really a shot that LaMelo Ball and Mark Williams will come back at all this season? Yeah, we'll recycle that topic for the 15th time. Plus, did we jinx Micic? Did that happen? We'll discuss it today on LOH.
You are Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
It's Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free and available anywhere you get your podcast. That's Doug Branson. You can find him on his Substack, everyhornetsboxscore.com. And I'm Walker Mail. You can listen to me on WFNZ every weekday from 12 to 3 p.m. No, I'm not giving you a rhyme yet, people. I saw that in the YouTube comment section. It's the fifth day now of asking for a rhyme. I'll think of something a little better, but maybe sometime later, just not today. We got more important stuff to talk about than these silly rhymies for the WFNZ, 12 to 3, you know me, all that stuff. We have a Hornets PR tweet, Doug, where they're tweeting out the injury report, and they do it for every single game. Injury update.
Hornets. I would say that's a majority of their job is just compiling. It's not charity. It's not informing the media about really anything else except for how many injuries this Hornets team has.
The Twitter account, I would agree with. Yes, the Twitter account is telling you lots and lots about the injuries, and every once in a while they'll retweet some of the articles out there. But the injury report, the latest one, talking about this Cleveland Cavaliers game, on March 27th, LaMelo Ball out with a right ankle sprain. Seth Curry out with a right ankle injury. Cody Martin out with a left ankle injury. And Mark Williams out with a low back injury. All of them are out. So, okay, we know this, right? We know this every single game that they put it out there. The problem is, why are they not listing Mark Williams and LaMelo Ball out for the rest of the season? Because usually that would mean because they're not out for the season. That's what it usually
All right,
means.
that's the show, ladies and gentlemen. Good night, everybody.
Yeah, that's what it should mean, but we're not so sure here. We remember the comment, I think it was after the Orlando Magic game, where Steve Clifford, it felt like unintentionally so, let it slip, that we're going to have to be small the rest of the way. And that is not something that you say if you expect Mark Williams back in the lineup. You're just not going to say it. So I don't expect Mark Williams back. When he was going back and forth on this LaMelo stuff, it was a while ago that he said LaMelo, whatever it was, right? Like he was talking about how LaMelo, we don't know if he's going to come back. You got to understand this is just what he's dealing with right now. And then on the Wes and Walker show, when we talked to him, he said the words, he's close, but now we're past the time of whether it's close or not. It wasn't close anymore. Like now we're past that point. Why do they keep doing this is the question. Why do they keep doing it?
And I guess really the only answer is they legitimately have hope because, look, there's no strategic advantage to hiding this kind of thing because you're out of the playoff race, right? I mean, it's not like they're being cute to try to go out there and confuse their opponent. There's nothing confusing about the Charlotte Hornets right now. I mean, you could look at the past few games and understand that. Teams have no problem dealing with the Hornets, whether these players were playing or not, okay? So it's not that. I just think there is legitimate hope that even with 12 games left, I mean, that's an eighth of the season. It's not an insignificant number of games that if they were to be available tonight, that you would get a decent look at where they were. But they all have to be healthy. And really, we're mostly talking about LaMelo Ball and Mark Williams at this point. And so I just think that's it. I mean, I think they're holding out hope they could get, 5 to 10 games out of these guys. But look, if we get another week or two into this, then I also wouldn't be surprised for them to say, all right, listen, we were holding out hope. We tried. It didn't happen. These guys are out for the remainder of the season, and we move on.
I'm all for the guys playing games if they're healthy, and then we get to the 5-10 game mark, and maybe even more so specifically 5. I don't know if I even view those numbers interchangeable when I say this, maybe even specifically 5. But if you only get to a handful of games, then I don't know what the point is at that specific number of games left. you get LaMelo in. The hope is that he plays well enough to salvage some good grace heading into the offseason. You get a look for a handful of games with the guys that you hope to build chemistry with. That's the thought. But the risk is him getting injured at the very end of the season and that going terribly wrong and that being the worst possible thing. If you're going to play him when there's like double-digit amount of games left, I think there is some sample size to be gained from that matters. But it's all about what number matters. 10, does that number go out the door at 5? Because to me, it feels like once we get to 5 games left on the season, the risk is too great, and I don't care about the reward anymore. For me, that's how I view it, especially with LaMelo. With Mark, honestly, Doug, I don't expect Mark back. I don't think he's going to come back in at all. That, from what we've heard, we don't hear anything about him at all. Like, don't think he's coming back. With LaMelo, more so that take applies to him.
Yeah, well, I agree on the Mark stuff because if it's lower back and they're trying to avoid surgery, then I think, yeah, you want to do everything possible to avoid that. But there's also this idea of like, you got to open the box and find out what's inside at some point. And so if these guys are 100% healthy, then you play. I don't care if it's 1 game or 10 games. You play them to see what's going on because every game presents an opportunity to see something. And so I guess I disagree with you on that there has to be 10 games or there has to be 5 games because I think that number is arbitrary. If they're 100% healthy, you play to see what you have. Now I understand limiting minutes. You don't throw them out there for 35 minutes or something as soon as they come back. Maybe it is just a little tune-up heading into the offseason to give yourself a little bit of momentum to head into the offseason. But at some point, you have to open the box. And so this idea of like, well, don't play them unless there's this exact playoff opportunity. It's like, no, these guys are young. We're not dealing with like 10, 12-year vets where you're talking about, body management. Like we've got it, if they're 100% healthy, they got to play.
Yeah, if we go into this offseason because LaMelo got hurt again, you might say, well, then he was always going to get hurt, and we just found out sooner rather than later. I know. Then we found out sooner rather than later. You know what? Like, we just talked about the PR's job. Like, we just talked about what their job is, sending out injury reports every single game, telling you what milestones players hit. Man, the PR staff, that would be a nightmare for them to deal with again. Having LaMelo go out there for a game, well, we thought it was really important to get this one game under LaMelo's belt before he didn't play again until October. But no, we thought this was a really important game for him to go out there before we were about to shut him down and everybody down for the rest of the offseason because nobody's playing, and then ramp him back up for October. And then he gets hurt after we thought it was okay for him to play one game. To me, I am waiting until we get a full offseason of rehab and getting better and developing that chemistry through practice and camaraderie and whatever else you can do there. But here, can't do it.
You got to open the box.
No, okay? I know, and you can do that later. Like you said, at some point, my point is later. My point is not with one game left where there's a huge risk of injuring him before.
But later, there's always later. We can always push this out and push it. See, if you were doing the Schrodinger's cat experiment, you would walk up to the box and you would say, I'm not going to open the box because if I open the box, the cat inside is going to be dead. As long as I don't open the box, this is the experiment. We don't know if the cat is dead or alive, but as soon as we open the box, we find out. Until then, it sits in this sort of quantum state of both being alive and dead at the same time. But our human rational brain can say, you know what? As long as I don't open the box, that cat is in there meowing. I could pet it. It's purring. But as soon as I open the box, dead cat. Well, we got to find out if the cat's dead.
Well, no, but here's the other thing, too. With the human mind, perception is reality. And with perception, you don't know if LaMelo was hurt. And so if you don't know LaMelo was hurt, and then all the people that want to trade for him, like, okay, well, maybe he can. But if you play him and then
nobody's going to trade for him unless he plays. Unless you open the box, nobody's going to play. Nobody wants to play with a toy that's still in the box.
Not one game.
Okay, that's what I'm saying.
Did you just call LaMelo a dead cat? Goodness gracious. All right, let's move on.
A toy? I don't know. I'm freelancing here, folks. So it's a Wednesday, and the Hornets have to play the Cavaliers again. They've got to play them 3 times in the last couple of games. I mean, we're in a weird time in the season.
We are in a weird time. It's almost over. Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Don't go to sleep on the Hornets just yet.
Did we jinx Micic?
Oops. Sorry, Vasa.
Yeah, we were leading the parade on that one. We thought maybe Rookie of the Month, but now maybe not so much. We'll see if he still has a shot coming up next on Locked On Hornets. This episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. That's what brings home the winning trophy. It's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or you get your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. More Locked On Hornets ahead. Yeah, Doug, we were leading the parade on this one, as I mentioned. Vasa Micic had put up numbers worthy of a Rookie of the Month in the Eastern Conference Award. That was a real thing. Yes, it was part joke, but it was also part real. And then Micic goes out there and against the Cleveland Cavaliers has 3 field goals, not even, was it just 1 field goal, 3 points? Goodness gracious, I'm putting up the box score now.
4.
Whew, it was brutal. Not a good game. And Brandon Miller actually had a good one, and so maybe he just cleans it up again, which I'll take. I will love if Brandon Miller just gets a 3rd straight Eastern Conference Rookie of the Month award. But what happened with Micic in that game, and do you believe in the power of jinxing someone like we probably did with Micic?
I think Micic is in a weird spot with Man returning. With Trey Mann returning, getting a little bit more of the ball handling duties. For a while there, it was like Micic, and that was it. I mean, he was in command of the offense and really had his a number of shots available to him that I'm not sure he's going to replicate. So I think that's part of it. And I just think this team in general is not moving the basketball very well, and the ball gets stuck a lot, and so. I think that's going to harm everybody's offensive output. But there's no doubt that it's weird though that he only got 4 shots up in that last game against Cleveland. I don't know if there was anything. Certainly the defense was schemed around stopping Miles Bridges and Brandon Miller. No one's scheming against Micic. There could have been, after that Brandon Miller game against Atlanta where he took a back seat. There may have been some coaching adjustments at that point. Some, hey, we need to move things more towards Brandon Miller, and maybe that responsibility fell on Micic a little bit because I think his assists have gone up the past couple of games as well. So that's all I can think at this point is that just to be an Eastern Conference Player of the Month, to be an Eastern Conference Rookie of the Month, I just think there has to be some consistency in your role and some consistency in the offense. And there's just none of that with the Charlotte Hornets right now. I don't know how you build a resume when things are just as kooky as they are game to game for the Hornets.
Yeah, they're definitely that. And if you look at just his game log, he was 1 of 4, just to, because I butchered that big time. 1 of 4 from the field against Cleveland, only 2 points, like you were mentioning. And so he has 10 points combined in his last 2, Doug. He wasn't anything less than 11 in the rest of the month. And the field goal attempts, so he has 4 in this game, right? The least amount that he had taken so far was 3 in the second game against Indiana that he was with Charlotte. And so you're right, very, very different from what we saw from Micic against Cleveland. And it doesn't seem like you're going to win, especially with Brandon Miller having the correct star power over Micic too. And if he's going to score again, right, like if he goes for 20 again against Cleveland, then maybe this is just Brandon Miller going LaMelo Ball style, right? Like when LaMelo was healthy his rookie season, he won every single Eastern Conference Rookie of the Month award. And he was going to win every single one had he stayed healthy. And that's including over guys, and specifically a guy like Anthony Edwards. But then he got hurt. And so he didn't win those anymore. Like, it feels like Brandon Miller is doing that just on the back half of the season, whereas LaMelo was doing it on the front half of his rookie year.
Yeah, for sure. And, it has had an effect on the offense. I think people are making a big deal, as they should, about the fact that the Hornets cannot score over 100 points. They haven't done so since that game against Memphis that they won 110-98. So during the whole 5-game losing streak, they haven't been able to get over 100. But in the past 3 games, they've barely gotten over 90. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that, Micic, his offensive output dropped. The bench's offensive output is basically nothing. And so really you are depending on Trey Mann, Brandon Miller, and Miles Bridges to produce and Poku, I guess, to generate a vast majority of your offense. Like, things are weird. Things are not great. And so having Vasa, score 15 points would probably be nice for this team right now.
I hope that they can figure it out, certainly on the bench, because it's been brutal for them as well. And you're right, just getting over 90, that's the goal offensively. It's a bad matchup against Cleveland, too. We know that because of all the size, Evan Mobley, Jarrett Allen, any team that has 2 7-footers or anybody that's over 6'10", it's going to be brutal, and that's going to be a tough matchup for the Hornets. They have them again. Let's talk more about that matchup on the other side, coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Don't go to sleep on the Hornets just yet.
Is there anything differently the Hornets can do this time around against Cleveland to get the win or maybe be more respectable? And we got to talk about this Jontay Porter story. That's coming up next on Locked On Hornets. Before we do that, I want to tell you that this episode is brought to you by Amazon Fire TV. Fire TV is your destination for sports, from live games to highlights to in-depth analysis. Fire TV offers amazing viewing experiences with smart TVs, as well as the Fire TV Stick that you can plug into your existing TV that provides access to millions of movies and TV episodes, as well as free and live TV. Whether it's opening weekend for baseball or the college basketball tournament, you're going to want to have Fire TV. And Fire TV recently created Fire TV channels to deliver a constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands, all for free. That includes all of us at Locked On and most of the big pro leagues and college conferences as well. Fire TV channels let you dive into all of the in-game analysis, highlights, and more to keep up to date on all of the latest in the world of sports, March Madness, NBA, MLB, and lots more. Not to mention great news, entertainment, gaming, travel, cooking videos as well. Check out Fire TV channels on Fire TV and Alexa devices. If you haven't checked out Fire TV channels, you should. Trust me on this. To learn more, visit www.amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. Again, that's www.amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. This episode is also brought to you by Nissan. Are you the kind of driver that likes to push things a little further? Ever wonder what adventure could be around the next corner? Our friends at Nissan have a lineup of SUVs with the capabilities to take your adventure to the next level. The 2024 Nissan Rogue is perfect for city drives and great escapes. Classic, exclusive Google built-in is your always updating assistant to call on for almost anything. Gone are the days of connecting your phone. Google Assistant, Google Maps, and Google Play Store are built right into the 12.3-inch high-definition touchscreen informant system. The 2024 Rogue is the perfect midsize crossover for your next adventure. The 2024 Nissan Pathfinder also here. It has room for up to 8 and an expansive cargo capacity and advanced available 4x4 capability. With 284 horsepower and up to 6,000 pounds towing, when adventure calls, the Pathfinder is there to answer. Take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. Shop NissanUSA.com. More Locked On Hornets ahead. Okay, Doug, it's a bad matchup. We know that. They lost 115-92 last time on the road.
Hold on. What's a good matchup? What? Well, how would you
Anybody's
define
small.
against this Hornets team right now? What's a good matchup?
It's a good point, but also
UConn. I think UConn would be a good matchup.
Mike
for the
Greenberg
Hornets right
doesn't
now.
think so. He thinks UConn would
Well,
destroy
Greenberg-
the Hornets. Yeah, he thinks he.
Greenberg is a fool. I'll say that. That's my take for this show.
Okay.
Mike Greenberg, you are a fool.
You know, I don't know what a good matchup is. I just know it's not with multiple big dudes on the floor at any given time. I know that. And Cleveland has that with Mobley and Jarrett Allen, and that's scary to me. And so that's what scares me about this looking very similar the next time out. Do you think it's going to look very similar here at the Spectrum Center tonight?
I apologize, Mike. You're not a fool. But that was a foolish thing to say, but you are not a fool.
That changed quickly.
I was just trying to protect us legally. You know, you're the radio professional. I want to make sure you don't get in trouble.
Sorry,
I have
Greeny.
nothing to lose. That's why I'm too dangerous for radio. That's why you won't let me on your show anymore. But
true.
I just want to make sure you're okay. So Mike Greenberg, you're not a fool. You just said a foolish thing. Okay. This matchup, I don't know if there's anything they can do differently because honestly, like I thought the defensive scheme was decent. I mean, they tried to throw some doubles at Garland, and I thought, in particular, Brandon Miller did a good job. They seem to have this idea of like, all right, we're going to have Brandon Miller sort of be the QB spy, and he's going to sit in the middle and slow down Garland just enough, slide over, make Garland think, and then, Nick Richards would come over help side to take care of some of that. The problem is anytime Nick Richards comes over help side, or helps from the weak side, then you've got one of those big dudes ready to yam it back for a putback dunk. It's just this domino of issues that you've got trying to defend this team. Honestly, I think the best thing they can do defensively is to play good offense and to not give up turnovers. They had 8 points off of turnovers in that second quarter. They've got to, at some point, not get outscored by like 25 in a second quarter. And that's up to these bench guys. I mean, Bertans has got to hit a shot, right? Every clank for Bertans ends up being a two-pointer, easy two-pointer in transition for the other team, Every time Poku blows a layup, the layup that he blew in transition immediately became 2 points for Cleveland. So they've just got to execute better on the offensive end and not have disaster possessions there that lead to easy points for another team in transition. That's really all they can do. And then, maybe say a few Hail Marys and pray and, put up, some kind of shrine to all of the gods. Don't be picky about which god, you're praying to at this point.
Okay.
Pray to all of them.
Any of them. Yeah, that would certainly help. It would also help because I think, at least with Cleveland, they're not like a great offensive team. They're still pretty good. Like they're at least average. And that's
no Mitchell. You don't have to
Yeah.
deal with Mitchell. You don't have to deal with Strus is questionable, so you hope he doesn't play. That gives them another 3-point shooting threat. But yeah, no Mitchell. You've got a. I don't want to say you got a shot, but you don't. But it's not impossible.
Yeah, the best thing you can do is it's cut off dribble penetration as much as you can and don't let them get to the rim because they're so good at it. Like, I mean, it's why Orlando, right? You talk about bad matchups, right? Orlando is terrible because they're long all over the place. They're very good at the rim. Same thing with Cleveland. Like those types of teams are going to give this squad a really hard time. And you've seen that every time that they've played. And that's why Cleveland separates. It was the 3-point shooting, honestly, that really kept them going in the fourth quarter for Cleveland. They just got hot. And that's what separated them at the end. But I still think the idea is to not let them get to the rim as easily as much as possible. Let them shoot threes. Like I think that's still the right idea. And then if they miss, they're not great offensively anyway. So maybe that's how you get the win. But you're right. I don't think there's a lot that you could expect the Hornets to do differently. You want to talk about this Jontay Porter story?
So Jontay Porter, for those that haven't been paying attention, he's the brother of Michael Porter. Didn't know that.
Yep.
Didn't know Michael Porter had a brother or that brother was in the NBA as well. Plays for Jontay Porter, plays for the Toronto Raptors, and is embroiled right now in a possible betting scandal that involves allegedly him and some unders that were being placed on his performance and him leaving games early, and so those unders hitting. Was he tipping people off? The NBA is investigating. I think DraftKings was one of the organizations that went to the NBA and said, hey, we smell something fishy here around this whole Jontay Porter mess. And then I imagine Adam Silver went, Jontay, you mean Michael Porter? And they said, no, Michael Porter has a brother. It's Jontay Porter. And Adam Silver went, oh, okay, yeah, we'll look into it. And so that's the deal. Here's my take on it, and I have a little bit of a Hornets angle here, which is that the most surprising, when I heard this story, I know a lot of people heard this story and they were shocked. They were like, oh my God, a betting scandal, NBA. The most surprising, the most shocking thing about this story is that the Hornets had nothing to do with it. That there was a negative story in the NBA and the Hornets. I was just waiting. I was scrolling through Woj's article and just waiting for Ish Smith, Tam Alec, somebody was involved in this that was either used to be part of the Hornets or is currently part of the Hornets. No Hornets were involved in this. It's amazing. Celebrate.
Yeah, we should celebrate. And yes, especially now that Michael Jordan is not a majority stake owner in the organization anymore. It's like it feels like we dodged all of those jokes because Michael, if Michael had still owned the team, I feel like that would be one of the more popular Twitter jokes, but I feel like he's a little out of sight, out of mind right now in that regard. And maybe there are still jokes out there on MJ on that front. But now with Gabe Plotkin and Rick Schnall there, maybe that's saving the Hornets from being the butt of the joke. I don't know about the most surprising part of it. I don't want to say that I'm surprised, but I'm just disappointed, Doug, more so. If you're going to do this, right, it's terrible. You shouldn't do it. We all understand that. But really, Jontay, you got guys betting upward of 10 to 20,000 on under props on Jontay Porter. One, the lack of self-awareness here is incredible. Jontay really thought he himself was Michael Porter Jr. And he was like, you know what? Maybe I'm interesting enough to warrant this kind of money being bet. But even so, all of them coming in on the under. And I was listening to the Zach Lowe podcast talking about this with a guy that is involved in this world. He's like, yeah, the higher end bets on player prop bets, especially of this stature, low profile role players in the league, you might get up to 1,000. I mean, maybe, but that's with the high rollers that are also members of whatever site that they're betting on. And they're just getting random bets on $10,000 or $20,000 on the under for Jontay. I mean, it was so blatant. It's so blatant. Now, allegedly, let's just go ahead and cover our behinds here. Allegedly. But even so, this is what it would look like if somebody didn't care and was so blatant about it, just trying to tell his people, hey, get ready to earn some money on me just deciding to quit because of feeling sick, having something in my eye, whatever. I can't go today, coach. Can't go today.
Anyone that's played pickup ball as a kid, there was always the one kid. Sun was in my eyes. Sorry, I can't. You fouled me. No, it's always that guy.
My favorite is when you miss a shot and then you go like, oh yeah, my wrist is hurting for 5 seconds.
Clicking. There's a little bit of clicking. Okay.
Coach, you might want to take me out.
I wonder if Jontay Porter thought to himself, no one's going to notice this because I'm Jontay Porter. You know what I'm saying? And the problem is that everyone noticed it because he's Jontay Porter. It was the exact opposite. Everybody, all these betting markets were like, wait a minute, why is all of this money going to Jontay? Someone went to the DraftKings CEO and said, there are a lot of people right now betting lots of money on Jontay Porter. What do we do? And the DraftKings CEO said, you mean Michael Porter? And they said, no, it's not Michael Porter, it's Jontay Porter. Michael Porter has a brother, it's Jontay Porter. And they said, okay, yeah, we got to do something about this. So I think that's the miscalculation that Jontay Porter made. The leagues, not just the NBA, the leagues have a real problem here. They've got to stamp that. I do feel bad for Jontay Porter because if all these allegations are true, he's going to get banned from the NBA.
Yeah, this is
they have got to put their foot down, Pete Rose style, as hard as they can to set an example. And the first couple of guys that get dinged for this are going to get the ban hammered. There's not going to be any of the steroids like, well, in the third one, you get, removed. No, this betting stuff, because there's so much money being pumped into this. We make money on betting, so I'm not going to sit here and moralize on the ills of betting, although you should bet responsibly.
And we want it clean, right? We can condemn it not happening in a clean way. It needs to be sanitized through the utmost as much as it possibly can be. And Jontay Porter having guys bet 10 to 20,000 on an underprop is not sanitized, not by any stretch of the imagination. And so if you go to the NFL And you see how they've punished players on this. Calvin Ridley is the biggest example, because Calvin Ridley only got suspended but if we're talking about banning, then it's an only word here. Calvin only got banned or suspended for a season before he was able to come back and play for Jacksonville this past year. And that was him, I believe, actually betting. I don't want to get this wrong, but he was certainly betting on the NFL. I don't know if he was betting on Falcons games. I'm not entirely sure about that. I don't think he was. But I know he was betting on the NFL, where the other suspensions that you've seen have been when players place bets on other sports, but at team facilities, at team sites. And that's where the NFL is saying, look, I don't care. I don't care what you bet on here. You're not allowed to do it, or you're going to get suspended. And that's where the Jameson Williams things comes into play, because the NFL and the NBA, this is something to keep note of. Both leagues, all leagues, are incentivized to make sure that they come down hard on this, and that they relay to the consumer, you're good. You're not going to have your money handled funny around here. Like, this is a straight up process that is in their best interest to relay that message as much as possible, no matter if that's taking with any kind of cynical approach from the consumer. They have to continue that approach as far as the message goes. And that's why Jontay Porter getting banned, especially if you wanted to go the cynical approach just from him not mattering as an NBA player. Like, he just doesn't right now. So this is the guy to do it on. Like, if it's a all-star Calvin Ridley level, something like that, then I would be interested to see how the NBA handles it. But him being Jontay Porter makes it all the more likely that he's just banned and kicked out of the league forever.
Now, Pete Rose was pretty good, right? When they banned him from the game, like, you know.
And there's too much money made in it now. You're right. Like, Pete Rose was good. He was the best hitter of all time. And so, yeah, they still banned him. Part of that was it's also...
I guess he wasn't... Was he not? But he wasn't playing at the time, right? When they set the ban there.
Well,
right?
Yeah, and he was betting on his own team, and plus he was just a jerk, and nobody liked him anyway. So like that's also gonna hurt Pete Rose, and there's some other reasons like Pete Rose. It's a whole thing with him, but yeah.
Well, I will say again to try to bring, because this is Locked On Hornets, to try to bring this back to a Hornets angle. We've got a new ownership group, and they are slowly making changes around this organization behind the scenes, the stuff that you don't see when you go to the games, the front office. Maybe they'll make some changes to the training staff at some point. But there are all these little things that happen with an organization. And one of those things is educating their employees, which include the players, educating them on, hey, what not to do, what to do and what not to do, and how to stay, it is the teams are incentivized to educate their players so that they stay on the court, so that they are available to play. And so I think teams got to get out in front of this if they haven't already, in educating their players, and the league I'm sure is doing this as well, of saying, hey, here's all the things that you may think are okay in terms of wagering or betting or something. This is not okay. You will get hit hard if you do this. And, the Hornets are a young team. So I hope that there is a lot of education happening right now. And as you continue to bring in 18, 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds into your system through the draft, high draft picks, you want to continue that education program and make sure all these guys, these new guys that are coming in, who don't remember Pete Rose and don't remember how hard leagues have come down on people in the past for betting, that you say, hey, we can't be doing this stuff. So hopefully the Hornets are out in front of that.
That'll do it for Locked On Hornets. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free and available anywhere you get your podcast, and that includes YouTube. Also, make sure you check out the Locked On 24/7 channel on YouTube. We have content for you literally every second of the day, so go check it out. Also, we're available anywhere you get your pods, and continue to click on the audible mediums that we're providing for you, not just YouTube. So go ahead and do that. Thanks again for listening. We'll be back with you tomorrow to recap the second iteration of the Cleveland game.